So we're here in Detroit. We're in front of the police station, and actually, that's one of the part of the game that was the first vertical slice we did for the game, which was trying to have a fairly good representation of the final game early on, and that was the city hub that we thought it would be more challenging than the compounds and stuff like that, and that's why we focused on it, and therefore it was one of the first really playable map.
And at the same time, the police station ended up becoming very important later on in one of our other demos, right?
The Gamescom demo.
Yeah, definitely Gamescom demo. And the funny thing is about the police station, both inside and the outside of the police station itself, is since the very first vertical slice, we had so many level designers who actually worked on it. So there was multiple iterations. Like I think
several artists,
several artists as well. Yeah. So at the end, we ended up with like almost an hybrid of so many ideas. And the Gamescom demo, when David Danfossy, our producer, actually came to me and said, yeah, we want to show the police station as the Gamescom demo, like almost a month before the actual Gamescom. First I cried, and then after that I decided to, okay, let's crank it up. And since the design itself, the scripting, mission scripting was fairly good for that. So there was just a minimum amount of work, but still it was very late again.
That's also the first time that Warren Spector ever saw and played the game. Was the police station map at the Gamescom.
Yeah, it was very amazing experience.
Yeah.
Not with the gap, my man. Fucking Motor City bangers. Who they think they are? The sewers was our turf. The whole sewers. Except near the cop shop. Blues made sure nobody hung around there.
Jensen? Listen, Tyndall, I know you're trying to do the...
Did you get it yet? Adam, please. You have to get that security footage back.
I got the footage. You owe me one, too.
Yeah, you got that right, Jensen. I mean, thank you so much. This is my life I just got back. Listen, I got a hold of a weapon mod. It's not much, but I figured a guy in your line of work could use it. Yeah, you're right, Adam. I know you're right. Listen, thanks again.
Yeah, the subway dancer.
Yeah, my favorite.
Me too.
Not me.
Actually, it looks like it's the Prodigy singer that is kind of trying to look cool on stage.
Well,
that thing is one of the things I hate the most in the entire game.
And you know what I'm going to tell you is, I remember I had one of my guys on the team, Kevin Dion, was working on it, and I came in to see how it was going because like when I saw the animation, I wasn't all that excited because I'm like, well, this is going to be hard to kind of sell because I found on one the guy's dressed kind of like futuristic, but yet he's doing these bad '80s moves.
But he's not even dressed futuristic.
Well, he's wearing like shorts.
I don't even know where that kid comes
from. The point being is that he's doing '80s moves, but he's not dressed as an '80s guy.
Yeah,
so it was kind of like, well, what do we do? And when I walked in, Kevin had he had sort of gone with that '80s kind of, you know, like a boom box, like boom, and it just didn't work. Like I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, this is just, it's emphasizing everything that's wrong with it. And I said, you know what it needs? And I was just, and he shares a booth with Johan, and I said, and I was talking out loud, I said, this needs some messed up track that like makes no sense, is just chaos.
I agree.
I said, so that the guy just looks like some idiot going nuts to some stupid music.
That's a very good point, because that's the thing in video games, when you want to do something that's like, when you want to represent something that's extremely cultural, like culturally based, like, you know, hip hop or breakdance or anything like that, it's just so, these things are so precise, you know what I mean? So you're right, to have turned it into a really kind of weird, chaotic, that would have been a great solution.
Well, that's what we did. To end it quickly is that the other engineer in the room goes, well, I have this piece of music that I did with this drummer friend of his. And he called the guy up. He played it for me, and I said, that's perfect. That's what I want.
Well, you did it with the track, but the dance is still like...
No, I couldn't change the animation.
I know.
I needed to get a music that tried to make it look like we're trying to make this look crazy as opposed to...
I think one of the key aspects is that if for it to really work in the themes of the game, it should have been kind of this augmented kind of
I agree.
where he's dancing and using his augmentations in a very uncanny way.
I agree completely.
That was the power of our game, and we didn't use it, you know. And as far as just real hip hop culture, like there's one game that did it really, really well with the breakdancing in the Metro. It's the Darkness, the first Darkness in the Metro. But to do this, like you really need to know what you're quote unquote talking about.
But the last thing I'll say is that's the fun thing, and sometimes not so fun thing about being in audio is that it arrives at your desk and it's finished, and you're looking at it going, what am I going to do with this? Because if I just do the bare minimum of making it functional, it's going to fall flat because it's already half failing.
Right.
So and at that point, we're all partying.
Everybody's moved on to other things, which I understand, but it usually falls to us to try and find a way to spin it and make it at least feel a bit better. And for me, I was happy with where we ended up with it, considering the state it kind of came to me at. I figured, you know, we did a pretty good compromise. Yeah, the subway dancer. Yeah, my favorite. Me too.
Not me.
Actually, it looks like it's the Prodigy singer that is kind of trying to look cool on stage.
Well,
that thing is one of the things I hate the most in the entire game.
And you know what I'm going to tell you is, I remember I had one of my guys on the team, Kevin Dion, was working on it, and I came in to see how it was going because, like, when I saw the animation, I wasn't all that excited because I'm like, well, this is going to be hard to kind of sell because I found on one the guy's dressed kind of like futuristic, but yet he's doing these bad '80s moves.
But he's not even dressed futuristic.
Well, he's wearing like shorts.
I don't even know where that kid comes
from. The point being is that he's doing '80s moves, but he's not dressed as an '80s guy. So it was kind of like, well, what do we do? And when I walked in, Kevin had he had sort of gone with that '80s kind of, you know, like a boom box, like and it just didn't work. Like I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, this is just, it's emphasizing everything that's wrong with it. And I said, you know what it needs? And I was just, and he shares a booth with Johan, and I said, and I was talking out loud, I said, this needs some messed up track that like makes no sense, is just chaos.
I agree.
I said, so that the guy just looks like some idiot going
Yeah.
nuts to some
Because
stupid music.
That's a very good point, because that's the thing in video games. When you want to do something that's like when you want to represent something that's extremely cultural, like culturally based, like hip hop or breakdance or anything like that, it's just so. These things are so precise, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
you're right, to have turned it into a really kind of weird, chaotic, that would have been a great solution.
Well, that's what we did. To end it quickly is that the other engineer in the room goes, well, I have this piece of music that I did with this drummer friend of his. And he called the guy up. He played it for me, and I said, that's perfect. That's what I want.
Well, you did it with the track, but the dance is still like...
No, I couldn't change the animation.
I know.
I needed to get a music that tried to make it look like we're trying to make this look crazy as opposed to...
I think one of the key aspects is that for it to really work in the themes of the game, it should have been kind of this augmented kind of
agree.
where he's dancing and using his augmentations in a very uncanny way.
Agree completely.
That was the
awesome.
power of our game, and we didn't use it, And as far as just real hip hop culture, like there's one game that did it really really well with the breakdancing in the Metro. It's the Darkness, the first Darkness in the Metro. But to do this, like you really need to know what you're quote unquote talking about.
Too. Yeah. But the last thing I'll say is that's the fun thing, and sometimes not so fun thing about being in audio is that it arrives at your desk and it's finished, and you're looking at it going, what am I going to do with this? Because if I just do the bare minimum of making it functional, it's going to fall flat because it's already half failing.
Right.
So and at that point, we're all partying.
Everybody's moved on to other things, which I understand, but it usually falls to us to try and find a way to spin it and make it at least feel a bit better. And for me, I was happy with where we ended up with it, considering the state it kind of came to me at.
Right.
I figured, we did a pretty good compromise. All right, so this was a subject that seemed to kind of raise a slight little bit of controversy,
Yeah.
even though we didn't see it coming for a mile. Basically, we had this character, Letitia, that she was designed or planned to design to be as a bag lady, a real hardcore hobo, because we had a lot of them. But Jensen had a relationship with her in the sense that she's been around and he's seen her around, and he often, I guess, would get information from her because it was kind of hinted at that, you know, that they had that type of rapport.
But first, if I could jump in and say, Letitia was a character who was added to the game very, very, very late. We were in beta already, and it was, we mentioned earlier about the David Seraph and having to bring him back in. When that call was made for the hostages, we said, the game design team said, or the level design team said, we would love to have a helper character. Can we throw this character in at the last minute? So we had to write this character very, very quickly, and we only had a pool of like 4 actors we could choose from, and it was either she was either going to be a black girl, a white girl, a black guy, or a white guy.
Yeah.
And so when we looked at all the actors available, we didn't actually plan her to be a black female character. It was just which of our actors are available.
It was
and
more out
let's
of
write to
convenience.
that.
And we had a good actor pool, like we were comfortable with any of them, but it just happened that when booking sessions, sometimes you're going to have lines for 3 hours and you can only book a 4-hour block. So you try and look and see, well, how can we maximize our money and our time, and maybe we can give them another character and help ourselves and not have to book another session. So it kind of fell into that. And for the record, I also want to say that the actress was African American. And it was her idea to play the character that way.
Yes.
In hindsight, where we kind of dropped the ball is that I think what really disturbed people, or what really seemed like a rude awakening, was that she kind of didn't look like a bag lady. And I think, again, you stressing that it happened very late in the game, you know, everybody's kind of running and taking care of their own fires and trying to... We're doing our best to kind of keep all the balls in the air at this point, and we know that the clock is winding down, so everybody's really frantic. And then it was just like we saw it in game, and it didn't really faze us. As we were sort of like, well, yeah, she doesn't look as hardcore as we were expecting, but whatever, you know, like at that point we were nearing the finish line and we had much bigger issues to look at. And it was only once the game shipped and we started seeing some of these comments
and
that
realized
that we looked at it with a different filter, saying, okay, we could understand why people sort of were a little put off. And I still think that had she been presented
the proper way.
As
a unique character, as a very homeless
somewhat
woman,
mentally disturbed, homeless woman, bag lady that you might find in the street, it would have worked.
I don't think it would have been perceived the way it was by certain people. And I was glad that not everybody took it that way. But we felt pretty bad when we saw how some of the people were reacting, because that was not our intention at all.
So you notice that there's a lot of street signs all over the place in places like Hangsha and of course Detroit. And one of the things that fell on on the writing team at some point was we would see these signs very late in the production process. And at one point I saw one of these street signs for Detroit, and I realized that it was in metrics. It was not in, feet and miles.
It was in the proper system.
And so
we needed to switch it to the
And as one of
crazy
the few
system.
Americans on this mostly French-Canadian team, I then had to basically send an email out to the whole team saying, guys, sorry, but we're in Detroit, and Detroit doesn't use metrics, and so make sure that all your signs are in the correct
non-scientific method.
Right. Yes. Can you tell me where Detroit is again?
Yeah. So anyway, so that was kind of funny because we sent that out, and I think that it was one of those kind of silly things that you're sitting there going, gee, nobody thought of that.
No, but it's true. No, it was really good that you made us notice. Yeah, that it was measured and yeah.
So that's why we had an American on the team.
Yeah, for that.
The only reason.
The only reason. Well, now we're with Patrick Garon, which was our technical level designer on the project. And for this moment, what we want to talk about is the fact that we wanted to have some events in the game where they were not necessarily side quests per se, but they were events in which your morality could be affected if someone is attacked or something like that, and you could intervene and with consequences. But it didn't happen, right?
Yeah, to do scripted events.
How may I be of... See. How many?
Well, now we're with Patrick Garon, which was our technical level designer on the project. And for this moment, what we want to talk about is the fact that we wanted to have some events in the game where they were not necessarily side quests per se, but they were events in which your morality could be affected if someone is attacked or something like that, and you could intervene and with consequences. But it didn't happen, right?
Yeah, to do Squid event in Deus Ex, it was hard. Like we had lots of good ideas, and we had two major limitations. Like the first one I can think of is the engine, but also production-wise. And the engine was allowing us to put animation, but to be able to synchronize like NPC together, to manage the interruption and all that was not something that was simple to do with our engine. So lots of the ideas were cut because of that. And when we were able to do them, it became like a problem of production because to create a very simple situation, with the Deus Ex game, you don't have a choice but to ask you what happened if the player do that, or the player can do so many different
the
ways.
chaos and all that, you know. And,
he has augmentation that he can go and sneak, can be like invisible, so we will not interrupt. Someone will disappear. What do we do? What does he say? He starts to talk to a guy before the event, after the event.
It's very complex.
So it becomes a very something simple become very complex. So we always ask ourselves, what if? And for a game, when we want to create quality, so we will ask, will the player will be happy with the result, and we spend most of that time doing the side quests instead, because there will be a good story that will be developed, and those encounters we decided to cut them or to change the scope and to something very simple.
These riots are David Seraf's
Thanks
fault.
to the arrival of...
Have you...
I'm sorry, Cassandra.
Regrettable affair. I'd very much like to meet with David Seraph in person to offer my deepest sympathy and assure him that are in no way linked to the Humanity Front. My people have worked tirelessly to find a peaceful solution to this dispute, and I unequivocally deplore the methods used by... Leave me alone!
Just go away!
Leave me alone!
Don't kill me!
Where are you, Jensen? I haven't got all night.
Hello, Pritchard. I'm almost in my apartment now.
Well, when you do get in there, connect the neural hub to your computer. I've created a secure tunnel, and I'll take over remotely.
You can access my personal computer.
Who do you think configured your security protocols?
Leave me alone.
Welcome home, Mr. Jensen.
So Adam's apartment is one of I think, the most intricate, kind of interesting places in the game. You know, during the production, we actually called it the Adams Museum, and the whole idea is because that's what we wanted it to be. We wanted people to just walk through it, and just by observing, you know, just through all the show don't tell, to get a lot of information on Adam's background and Adam's personality and what's happened to him in the past, and also show that he likes cereals a lot. And also there's a secret stash behind the TV, which is a bit of an homage to the first Deus Ex, which was I think in Paul's apartment, where you had all the secret stuff with the computers behind the shelves and whatnot. And also Mary does all this stuff on the
there's all this stuff on the workbench, because we had written in his backstory this big long thing about how he's always been a collector. He used to go to old secondhand stores and stuff and find old mechanical objects that he liked to take apart, and because he was curious and he was very into that. And so we pulled that out, and what was interesting about it is we didn't actually tell the story of his backstory, but people who came and saw that workbench then made up their own stories and basically wrote to us and were saying things like, wow, it's so cool. It's like how he's trying to understand his own body and his new mechanics. And I was like, oh, I like that backstory a lot better than what I came up with. So yeah, that's what we're going with.
But actually, it was that too. This room was supposed to give you all the personality of Adam Jensen through his environment. So.
So here we can see all these cards that you know, Adam received while he was in convalescence from his operation. You had to stay home probably for quite a while, and these are the cards that people sent him to get, you know, to get better, to get well cards, and it shows, you know, the amount of details that we wanted to put in the game, and again the show don't tell, and to have a lot of the universe live through just little things like this that you could see.
And the fact that they're still on his desk shows that it was not a long time ago. Like
yeah,
he was somewhat rushed out of.
Yeah. Or that he just never cleans, but yeah.
One or the other.
And then there's the cracked mirror, Mary, right?
Yeah, and the cracked mirror in his bathroom is a big part of it too. I think that we are always saying, even before we knew if we could have mirrors in it, we were saying we absolutely have to have a mirror in his bedroom, and he has to have cracked it. And it shows a lot about what he's been going through, and it did help us cover some of the technical limitations that we had in the game, I believe.
Yeah, because we decided we wouldn't have reflective mirrors for whatever reason.
And and for some reason, like this kind of psychological reflection of his anger toward what happened to him, like, really resonated with the fans, and I think it made them empathize even more with the character.
And like I said, because technically we couldn't do actual mirrors throughout the whole game, so we kind of rollball on it and have fun through the emails between him and the assistant.
Yeah, that's true.
Down in the lobby and all. So.
It became a bigger story.
So here we can see all these cars that, you know...
That cutscene actually, in the first iteration, in the first build of this map, it was a first-person cutscene in which you were seeing the computer through the eyes of Adam Jensen, and you would see everything that Pritchard was finding and everything. But it was very static. It was lacking the drama. And then our cinematic director really wanted to do it differently with a third-person approach where we see Adam Jensen interacting with Pritchard and everything. And in the end, I think it's much more dramatic and much more interesting, more dynamic than what we had in the first place.
We had at first, yeah.
So he wasn't alone. Someone off-site was doing the actual hacking.
Exactly. And whoever it was tried to hide his location by using multiple satellites. But I may have just traced him to here, an abandoned factory complex in Highland Park.
Get me the address, Pritchard. Because if we're lucky, whoever pulled our terrorist strings might still be there.
Nice work, Adam. Frank tells me you also shut down a transmission that was coming from Derelict Row?
Yeah, I did. What was that?
It was keeping an open back door into our network.
So somebody could get in and obtain our passcodes anytime they want. I guess Francis owes me one.
Don't make him sweat it. I want you to focus on finding the bastards who attacked us. Farida, are you there?
On the line, boss. Jensen, you reading me?
Loud and clear.
Meet me near that antenna you shut down in Derelict Row. I'm doing a flyover to make sure everything's okay, and I can pick you up there.
On my way.
Jensen, I'd appreciate it if you instructed your street informants to use more conventional means of contacting you.
What are you talking about, Pritchard?
I mean, I found a message stapled to your door. Colo, alley off Bagley Avenue, Ezekiel. How cryptic.
That's near Seraph HQ. I'll look into it. Oh, and it's Cholo.
Just get away! Not a good time to be out in the streets. Don't kill me!
Yeah, we're in front of Wayne Haas, the lobby guy in the police station, and actually that was the first dialogue system that we nailed for the game. really, it was really capturing what we had in mind. We tried to go for a psychological gameplay,
and still the best one in my opinion.
Yeah, in terms of the realization and everything, and but it was really with this one that we really tried to make you believe that you're talking to a real person, and that you could really have an influence on what's going on and everything. And like you said, John, it was from an animation standpoint, this one is brilliant. You really see his expressions and how
that one is all
portrayed.
keyframe.
It's all keyframe, and it's the one that works. It works the best.
You just want to slap him. That's how good he is. You just want to like wake up. You like whisk, you know.
And actually, in the original, also the design of the conversation. You can see behind him there are some pills that are into a trash can or on the shelf. I can't remember, but. Originally, you were supposed into the game mechanic to be able to look around, and if you had the right augmentation, you would spot the blackmail item that you could use in the conversation.
Yeah, the original design for the special augment was much simpler than what we ended up with in the game, and it was just really like you could scan the environment and find a blackmail item, and you could then bring that up if you had the social log. And so we had written that one specifically to encapsulate that that particular weakness in Wayne's background.
What were they, like anxiety pills or something?
Yeah, they were antidepressants because, you know, he's got such a bad life, you know?
Well, we got to say that the actor, that was the first one, like you said, for the dialogue challenge, and obviously we had the pressure to find the right guy who was going to be able to help bring this to life. And again, you know, like, God bless the stars that were shining on us, because this guy walked in and we fell in love. I forget his name, but we fell in love with him right away. And just over time, like, the guy, he brought Wayne really to life. That with the animations that were done, like you said. Again, another example of a really good fit of the visuals with the voice, the acting.
Yeah, that's really true.
It all came together.
Totally fits, yeah.
And it worked out really well. And, like, I mean, I think through the whole 3 years or 4 years of dev, we were always saying, you know, referring to him as poor Wayne.
And what's really funny about it, the acting was so good, is because Wayne was never supposed to be a very important character. I think in our blueprint, we just said you have a discussion with the desk sergeant. And it was really no major character that we were having at all. And yet it was so good, and the animations worked so well, and the voice acting did, that he became such a memorable character that we had to bring him back later in the game.
Yeah, and it's the first one that we presented to the press and to the people, so
we knew his lines by
heart. We saw it so many times that we were,
It was like a joke at the office. We'd say his lines
all the time,
continuously. You know.
And the one thing that I'm sure people do notice is that, of course, the recording and all that went on during like a 3-year process. So when Elias Tufexis, who plays Adam Jensen, came in, I mean, there's a certain evolution over time that takes place organically of trying to find the character.
When an actor gets into his role over time,
once he found the voice, we never had to like bring him back and say, "Oh, listen to this, and we think you're a bit different." But you can tell that he hadn't quite perfectly found it yet. And in fact, there was one line that bugged me for like 3 years, and we did a retake at the end where he really stepped out of his character, because we were still trying to define the box of, okay, well, when you get really angry, this is how angry you get. And we were trying to define that and saying, well, think of Jensen more as a Clint Eastwood. You know, Clint Eastwood never really yells, but you can tell when he's really pissed just through the sort of grimace in the voice, you know. And he really took that to heart. And I remember he came back, he goes, I watched Unforgiven for like 3 days, and he's like, you know, I know exactly how I want to play it, because it's a very difficult scene for him, because he's got to be mad and sort of toy with them, and they have a history, but yet Jensen has to be, you know, you're the hero, so you got to be calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah.
So it was quite challenging for him early on when he was still.
He
trying
wanted
to find
redo it.
And he did actually. This was one of the first things he ever did. And 4 years later, as we're finishing recording, we had to do a retake for the social log, and he hurt himself and said, "Oh my God, that's horrible. I'll do it all over for free, I swear." But unfortunately, we couldn't. Too much was on it. So
now you know Elias Tufexis will work for free. So here's a billboard with Eliza on it, and that's pretty cool because one thing that we really wanted to do with Eliza, she was a bit of our poster child in the game for the cyber renaissance fashion. Like they really push one because she's a personality. She's probably rich. She's on TV all the time, and these are the people usually that are kind of like at the forefront of fashion and whatnot, and all those trends. Things is that we could only afford one model for Eliza in the game, not because of memory, but because of like, you know, time constraints and whatnot. So we had this idea that if we only have one model, then what we could do, because she's a personality, there's got to be ads and posters and marketing and stuff like that of her in the world. So why don't we portray some of her other costumes or clothes or whatnot through these things, instead of making, you know, other models. And that ended up working really well. Yeah. And we also had to make sure that these things were positioned in almost like a choke point, so the players,
it attracts your attention.
It attracts your attention, and players would see them and whatnot. So I think it was really clever that we came up with that idea. It was it made us save a lot of time and money, but it ended up giving the exact same result.
It worked. She attracted attention.
Awesome.
Not a good time to be out in the streets.
I see you got my message, Cabron.
Sanders. You're taking a risk meeting this close to Seraph headquarters.
Same risk as you, considering you're the one who let me go. But I don't plan to stick around that long.
Yeah? So what's this about?
I did some house cleaning after the plant. And I turned up some intel on that gearhead motherfucker who used me and my brother. Chink left a pocket secretary behind. Don't say who he was working for, but it's got access codes, names, shit like that.
Why are you giving it to me?
Maybe I don't like feeling like I owe you.
Will you be... All...
Access granted.
See.
Well, now we're with Patrick Garon, which was our technical level designer on the project. And for this moment, what we want to talk about is the fact that we wanted to have some events in the game where they were not necessarily side quests per se, but they were events in which your morality could be affected if someone is attacked or something like that, and you could intervene and with consequences. But it didn't happen, right?
Yeah, to do scripted event in
down here.
Keep running, asshole!